Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's DevRel Deep Dive. I'm Lotte from the Umbraco Developer Relations team, and I'm joined by
Sebastiaan from the same team.
from the same team. And this week, you might think we're talking about 16.2 that was released today, but we're not, because we already talked about that last time, because we do RCs, people. We're bleeding edge here in DevRel. Nope, today we're going to talk about something that there was a new blog post out and a repository that was made public. What have you been spotting, Seb?
I mean, speaking of bleeding edge, this is also just an RC, I think. So yes, it's called Umbraco.cms.search, which is a new abstraction on search in Umbraco. So don't worry, Umbraco's still using Examine under the hood, but there's some extra goodies coming on top of search, making it easier to do beautiful things. So that's what we're talking about today.
And it's being done as its own separate package so that it can be developed alongside the normal CMS development. And if only we had someone here who has been working on it and could tell us more in detail. And as if by magic, let's welcome Kenn to the screen. Hello, Kenn.
Hello.
Hello.
Principal developer of the CMS, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
fancy that.
Job titles, eh? Thank you for joining us at the at this DevRel Deep Dive. Yes, so new search. Why do we need a new search? 30 seconds, go.
Ooh, I can't say that in 30 seconds, but well, we need, we've been planning this for a long, long time, to be honest. We just want to make the search experience richer within Umbraco, both within the back office, eventually at least, but especially for those developing sites. We want a better out-of-the-box experience with more features. And then on the flip side, we also want to be less dependent on Examine. We want to own the abstraction that powers search. So those are the two main drivers for us building a new search, if you will.
I think it's time. Surely we've got to do some screen sharing now. We've got to show people code. I don't think developers can listen to words for longer than a minute without needing to see something in GitHub.
So this is the repo for Umbraco Search, which we made public last week. At the same time-ish that we released the first alpha of Search. We're keeping it in a separate repo because, as you said, Lotte, we're building this as an add-on, as a package. It's not meant to be a package forever, but we don't want to disrupt any more for 17 than we already did with the new back office and whatnot. So we're keeping it as a package, at least until the other side of 17. So you can opt into this starting from version 16, try this out, work with this, but you don't have to do before at some point after 17, maybe 18, who knows? So that's why it's in its own repo. And there are lots of words here saying, well, how do you do this? What can you do? And how do you install it? And yada, 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 yada. Oh, that's fun. There are also some stuff that we still need to do. So this is not by any means finished, but it's in a state where we need people to start looking at it, to start messing with it and breaking it and telling us all the things we did wrong. Hopefully people would have chipped into the RFC process long before to tell us all the things that was wrong with it, but still, this is the time to actually influence what we're building before we start shipping stuff that we can't change anymore.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's always different kinds of people, right? People who like reading words and understanding them immediately, and people who like to play and break things and going, oh, this is not what I expected. So
yeah,
perfect to have some code ready.
Yeah. And as I said, it's on the NuGet. There are a bunch of different packages for search. We're bundling them differently because, again, this is alpha. There are different packages for different needs, if you will. And you can opt into all of them except the core. And you also need a provider. We'll get back to that. But you can opt into all the other things, which is really nice because when I was prepping for this demo, I realized that one of the packages actually made Examine blow up. So I could uninstall that, and that was good. But that's the whole purpose of this, doing it in several small packages. So if one misbehaves, you can get rid of it and move on with your day. Yes. I wrote a blog post about this just to have a different say on or different perspective on search. And part of this blog post is a repository with a demo site.
Mm-hmm.
And that demo site is all about design, of course. That's me. UX design, that's what I do. So this is the demo site, which sort of demos the basic functionality of new search. Before we dive into that, there's a quick, if this wants to load, here's a quick view of the model we're currently working with. It's a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of books. Each book has a summary, an author, a nationality, which is a tag, a publish year, that's a number, and then a length annotation, which is a radio button group. So those are the fields we have to work with in our book search engine. And it translates into this. So we have 50 books to start with. As you can see here, new search is powered, this is powered by the new search, and the new search features faceting out of the box, which is really cool. It's one of the things that we really, really sorely miss in the current version of search, or the current search experience in Umbraco.
Yeah.
We have two different types of facets here. We have exact match facets, which would be like sort by length or nationality. And we have range facets and range filters as well. Up here you have ranges of centuries. Now each book is annotated with a concrete publish year. So what I've done is I have grouped the published years into centuries and made buckets out of them. And the new search protocol just understands ranges, and whatever provider powers it hopefully also supports ranges. So we can go ahead and say, give me something recent, should be medium length or short because I'm lazy, should be by an American or British author. And I mean, this is not revolutionary from a perspective of search, but it's something that's been sorely missing in Umbraco for quite a few years. So that's on the feature side, this is why we're doing it.
Very good. One thing to note is that these facets don't come automatically. You've had to create them first, right?
That is depending.
Okay.
That depends. It's the classic consultancy answer here. So out of the box, the new search is still powered by Examine, as you mentioned in the beginning, Sebastiaan. And Examine is powered by Lucene in turn, and Lucene requires you to define facets up front. It's a thing. It's pretty much mostly a performance thing. So when you use the default Examine provider for Umbraco Search, you will have to explicitly define your facets before you can start using them. And you have to do that at index time. So if you change your facets later on, you need to re-index, because otherwise the index has no clue what you're trying to do. If you swap in a different provider, if anyone were to write such a thing, maybe that provider would have a dynamic templating system that would allow it to automatically detect and handle facets.
Got it.
So it all depends on the technology that lies or that powers this. Now we can jump straight back into where we just came from, because I have again, this is running the core and the core Examine provider at this point. And as you say, well, we need to define the facets that we want to use, and we need to do this by configuration up front, so we know what to look for when we do faceting.
Yeah.
There are also some other things here, like Lucene. The default Lucene implementation does a pre-filtering, which means you will have a hard time having unactive facets in a facet group where you have picked one or more values. It gets a little bit complicated, but long story short, the behavior you just saw is not the default, but that's what I'm opting into here. Now, this is all nice and well, but the other side of this was, well, we want to make this extendable. We want to have as many extension points as we can pour into this. And I'm very sure that we're not done, but we've added a few to start with. I think the first one we should have a look at here is well, let's have a look at the property value handler. Now, I am going to stop the site for a minute. Well, actually, let me wait with that for just a second. If we hop back into Umbraco, you can see the nationality here is a tax property editor. And the core search implementation translates a tag into a keyword because that's what we assume it is.
Mm-hmm.
Keywords, on the flip side, they are not queryable by free text. They are keywords. That's something else.
Mm-hmm.
So the search abstraction defines texts and multiple layers of texts in one set of properties, and then keywords is something different, meant for filtering and faceting in this case.
Right.
So if I search for French,
right,
I'll find one book because
the description
French is somewhere
French. Yeah.
in the description.
Yeah.
Now, if I really wanted my tax property to be free text searchable, I could override the way the Umbraco core translates text into something indexable. And this is by means of the property value handlers. So let me stop this for a second, comment this in. This interface is what you need to implement to create a value handler. You can do this for your own custom property editors as well. Of course, you can do that. You can override the core ones.
Yeah.
And this is discoverable. So you just need to implement it, then the core will find it automatically.
Nice.
Now, while this builds, I'll just run you through this real quick. I've copied all this from the core tax value handler because tags are kind of annoying. Depending on configuration, they store different values into the content property. And it can be a little bit cumbersome to parse all that and figure out what was actually stored as a tag. So I just stored all the code, but a lot of it has to do with parsing stuff up.
Yeah.
The interesting part is here. Now, once I have my string values parsed up, I can then say, well, my index field will still add the values to the keywords because I need them for filtering. I need them to power my facets. But I also add them to the text collection because the text collection, well, that's part of free text search. So with this little trick, and once the site's done building, we should be able to search for French and actually find some results. So another thing to note here is also in the search repo notes. At this point, we expect you to rebuild the index every time you boot for the simple reason that we might change stuff at moment's notice that won't work with the index you just built. So once you upgrade to the next alpha, maybe the index layout needs to be completely different, which means you're better off just rebuilding the entire thing to start with.
Yeah.
So while you're experimenting, you'll have to rebuild at startup. But now it's rebuilt.
That is a for now thing, but that
definitely a for now
not
thing.
be in the final implementation, right?
Oh, that would be horrible.
Yeah.
Well, that being said, we are doing work to make re-indexing a lot faster, but that's a whole different subject. Anyway, now we have this thing running and we have our value handler in there. So if we search for French, hopefully we will go ahead. Please search. We will find those books that are in French. So that's good. So that's one extension point that's super valuable to know about, that you can mess and manipulate with how values are stored, and you can replace the core functionality with your own, with just a few lines of code if you're lucky. But there are a lot of potential for this. Like, let's say you have a text field in Umbraco, and it's a title field. Now, the search abstractions, they actually define different relevance levels of text, because we know we have complex editors like the rich text editor. It has text with more meaning inside it than other text. Like a heading is probably more relevant than a paragraph. So we have different levels of textual relevance. And let's say you have a title field and you want to say, well, this title field should actually have a higher relevance level than my whatever else summary field. You could do this. You could hook into or you could override the value handler for the text box and say, well, if it's a title property, please put this into the highest relevance text instead of just the regular texts. So there are lots of options there.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that works. Now, another thing we could have a look at here is content indexes. Just stop this again. So a content indexer is is a thing that adds fields to the index. Whenever we index something that is content, we start figuring out which fields should be extracted and put into the index.
Yeah.
And we have two different indexes in the core. We have one for system fields. That is like we need to know the ID of the content. We need to know something about the structure in which it resides and the variance and protection level and all that to handle basic features. Then we have another indexer for the properties inside a given document. But you can add your own indexes as well. So if I want to add more fields to my content, this is one way of doing it. I could say, well, I want to add these fields every time a content is indexed. I need to add these extra fields in there because I need them.
Right.
Maybe I'm calculating some pre-calculated buckets for whatever.
Yeah.
And here I'm just adding a new field, and I'm saying, well, the text should contain DevRel Deep Dive. Now, in contrary to the value handler, this one must be registered as part of a, well, basically just be registered. So let's go ahead and do that. Just comment in this line. So I'm adding it to the services collection, and then the search engine will find it and automatically add this every time we index content. Now we just have to wait for this to rebuild.
Yeah. And this is a composer, but you could just as well put it in your program CS.
Yeah, if you really want to.
Yeah. I prefer not to, so I love you doing this. So this is perfect.
The thing is, you will need a composer anyway to add search. At least as long as it's a package. You need to say, well, I want to add search, I want to use examine, I want to rebuild my indexes after startup, and I need to configure those facets. I'm also doing some JSON options here because I was lazy when I built this, so I'm just powering out the facet results directly instead of writing my own models, in which, well, system text JSON doesn't really like that because of some inheritance stuff. So we are back into the site here, and with a little luck, and once it wakes up, we should be able to search for DevRel, because that's the value we just added to every single one of our...
Yeah, I was going to say, we're getting 50 results because we just added a hardcoded text everywhere.
Precisely. It's brilliant.
Yes.
But, so if we go ahead and enter DevRel, we will find those 50 books because they're already there. In fact, there are 51 results because there's also the books collection node, and that's also in the index. But because all this is powered by an API controller, which utilizes the search API, and that has a filter saying it must be the books content type, or that is like a prerequisite for finding anything here. So yeah, that's another extension point that's worth investigating. So could you use this for anything? Is this useful?
Yeah.
Then there's the last one that I want to mention today, or well, the second last at least, is if everything else fails, we have a notification that you can opt into. And since we know this takes a little while to build, I will restart the site here. So I'm adding a notification handler for the indexing notification, which is part of the search core. And my indexing notification handler here says, well, hello there. If you're indexing for the published content index, please do something. Otherwise, don't mess with it. So the thing is, the new search powers potentially everything in Umbraco, depending on how many NuGet packages you install. It can also power the backoffice and the delivery API. Of course, media search and member search is also powered by this. I'm starting here saying, well, only do this for the published content index. Then the next thing I'm doing here is I'm looking for the field called author nationality. That is the tax field that we've been messing with previously as well.
Yeah.
And if the keywords in that field now contains American, I will remove that field and I'll add a new field where the keyword is Americano. Because why not?
Americans are coffee, clearly.
Yes, precisely. So the idea here is this is kind of the last resort. This is just before we throw things at the index. You have an option to sort of mess with it. This gets messy really, really quickly. So this is like a really last resort when you need to do something that you cannot do anywhere else. A lot of this could have been done in some of the other extension points as well, but this is where if you're desperate, you go here.
Yeah.
And we are desperate because we are recording. So now you can see the filter now says Americano.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Very nice. Can I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
If you have many of these handlers, do you know which one will run first?
Pretty sure they run in the order you add them, but that's a question for the Umbraco core team. And right now I'm speaking on behalf of something else. I'm not sure.
I'm just saying you might want to be careful with this one.
Well, you definitely will be careful. So one thing I realized whilst building this, which makes sense when you know it, if you recall, we just messed with the text and said, well, please add the keywords or the values to the text as well, so it's searchable. Well, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Except at this point, for the American, we have now overwritten that once more, so we can no longer search for American up here. Well, it will give some results, but definitely not all the results that we would expect. French still works because we didn't mess with those, but so it gets really, really hairy and really, really scary really quickly. So I really mean it when I say the notification handler is a last resort. And I would also encourage people to reach out if they start using this. Then maybe we are missing an extension point.
Yes, that's a good point.
So that might also be a telltale that that you need to report an issue somewhere saying, could we please figure out a way to do this so I don't have to go through this handler and mess with my data.
Nice.
Yes. Now let's have a look at that last thing that we kind of haven't touched upon yet.
Yeah.
Which is the idea that we now own the abstraction and we have a well-defined API for search. And that means we can plug in different search providers.
Oh, now it's getting extra exciting.
Yes, now it's getting really interesting. And I have built another provider, this time for Elasticsearch. And this is also on NuGet, and you can try that out if you want. And I happen to have installed this already in this demo site. So I'll stop this, and I will go to the SAC Composer. And I will say, instead of using the Examine search provider, I will say add Elastic search provider. We can actually run multiple providers in parallel, but that
was going to be my next question. Yes,
it's a topic for a different day, but you could do that. There's no saying you couldn't power your back office search with Examine and your front end search with Elastic, or you could do anything basically, because you can add in providers here. You'll just be piling on more work, but that's what it is. The feature is there for you to use. But so we have the search provider here, and I have a Docker running with Elasticsearch. And right now we have no index called published content. This is the name it would have if it was there. So let's run this. And again, since we are forcefully rebuilding the indexes, we should now get some data into Elasticsearch.
Yes.
Now, the really awesome thing about this, in itself, it's pretty cool that we can, quote unquote, just swap out provider here. But if you're not counting all the lines of code that's involved in building a provider, which depending on your technology, it can be a lot or a few. And spoiler alert, it's a lot for Elastic because it's super verbose.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not counting those lines, if someone in the community happened to have built it, this is just a NuGet package and one line of code. And everything we've done so far towards tweaking our results, messing with our data in and out, changing the way tags are indexed, desperately grasping for a notification handler, all that still works.
Excellent.
The search still works. It has no clue that we replaced the underlying tech. And that's really, really powerful. As long as we don't start utilizing specific features of a specific search technology, then
you don't want to use a direct examine query anymore.
No, not if you can help it, at least.
It won't work on Elasticsearch.
It won't work on Elasticsearch, but it will work if you're powered by Examine.
Sure.
Just as if you need to do something crazy, you can go straight to the Elasticsearch client and use that here. But now we're finding the same results. It even looks like the relevance is somewhat the same because they're both powered by Lucene at the end of the day.
Okay.
But now you can see we still have the Americano tags here. We still have our range facets. They all work. It's brilliant. Hopefully, if we go back to the Elastic or back to Kibana, you'll now see that we have actually found have some data in here. And we can search for our data. And we can see we have the 51 items because the book's plus 50. Hey, that was our text even.
Beautiful.
Yay. But this is really, really powerful that we, in theory, or that is the hope at least, a multitude of different providers will just appear eventually, community-led, and people can mix and match providers as they see fit for their individual solutions. And then some providers will probably add additional features that is unique to this technology. And you might choose that provider because it then offers semantic search, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really awesome. Some of those options will then require you to start using that provider specifically, and then you're tied into that provider. Okay, that's how it is, but you're still using the abstraction layer to do it. So you're still in the scope of what is documented officially, at least. So it's still good.
Yeah. Lotte, do you have any questions?
Only if I'm allowed to now call Kenn Mr. Search. If I call Lee Kelleher Mr. Tip Tap, I feel like Kenn, you're now Mr. Search. No, I don't have any questions. I kind of feel like it's something now that I want to go and play with. Work with, not play. But thank you for writing up all that you have done, Kenn, and putting a demo site and sharing all of that, because I think you'll enable people to be able to start using it in earnest very easily, and would love to see people testing those extension points, coming up with interesting use cases. Reminds people we have virtual meetups every 2 weeks. Why not come along and show us what you've got working? And if you need us, we'll make Kenn join us as well for some live support. Sorry, Kenn.
At this point, the docs, they sort of scratch the surface. That also includes my blog. This is more about getting it up and running, playing around with it, see if this works as intended. The extension points are largely undocumented, but we are that one. Well, it's the Umbraco style, isn't it? So we are but we are working on it, and I have a few more blog posts coming, which will also cover some of these cases, some of what we've been doing today, some of the more exotic things we can do with the search, and maybe some alternative ways of using the search abstractions.
It reminds me slightly of an unboxing video I did with Jacob, where talking about the new back office as it was back then. And he was like, this is everything that we've got to do, but we're just getting started. And it's kind of like, we need to do all this to get us to the point where we can now go and do the things we want to do, that we've wanted to do for a long time. And this feels like it's another one of those, perhaps.
I mean, this is also going to be an enabler for the back office, because again, the back office search today, it's limited by what we have available. But once this goes into the core, eventually we could start utilizing stuff like faceting, filtering, finding stuff by tags, free text search, and whatever else I mean, if you had a provider that would understand natural language, you could start utilizing that from the back office. So there are like a lot of potential in this. It'll also power the delivery API querying, so you would also sort of automatically be able to utilize it over there. A lot of things are coming together with this.
Amazing. Thank you for being our longest DevRel Deep Dive. I mean, it was always going to be, let's be honest, search. You're not going to do that in 15 minutes, are you? So apologies if people's cups of tea have gone cold because we took too long. But that was very interesting. Thank you for taking the time to share us, Kenn. And if you could go back and work on, was it 12 issues, I think, that's currently in the repo?
Only 12 issues.
Yeah.
Only 12.
Hopefully a handful or 10 handfuls more will appear once people start messing with it. I really hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. Please, people, go mess with it.
Go break it.
That's
yeah.
it. Lovely.
Excellent. Anything else, Seb?
All good.
Great. In which case, like, subscribe, thumbs up, bells, all the endings that we do. Thank you very much again, Kenn, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.